it's Betsy, and today we have a fun video. We're gonna be doing the if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes. And I'm not sure if this is a tag or who started it, but some of my subscribers wanted to see this from me, so I decided, well, let's go ahead and do this. Now, this was extremely hard for me because you may or may not know, but I have an extremely obscene amount of eyeshadow palettes. I mean, let's be frank, I have over 300 of them, and that's way too many for one person. I get that, but they are my babies, and I collect eyeshadow, and I love eyeshadow. So this was very difficult for me to do. So I sat down, and when I was deciding this, I was like, okay, what do I need in my collection? So for me, a lot of times, I like good mattes, but I'm definitely drawn more to special shimmers. So when thinking about the palettes that I picked, I definitely chose both of those. And when I did this, I tried to think of, what is going to give me the most versatility and what's going to give me some of the uniqueness that I have in my single shadows in palette form, because I didn't think it would be fair to choose like my Cleona palette that has all of my stained glass, you know what I'm saying? I felt like that was cheating a little bit. So these are all pre-done eyeshadow palettes. And I'm gonna kind of go over the reasoning behind it, but let's start off with, this is the new palette from Notoriously Morbid. This is the Absence and Lace palette. I chose this palette because it has absolutely beautiful multi-chrome shadows in here, and they do a beautiful hand pressed formula. So like this is the white that's in the corner. Let's go ahead and swatch some of these so you can see, because I feel like Notoriously Morbid and they hand make look at those. They hand make their eyeshadows, and I feel like their formula is extremely unique. And this is like a multi-chrome, duochrome, really special palette. So you can see the shiftiness in these shades. Now, this isn't available as a palette anymore because this was their 8th anniversary. You can buy the shadows as singles, but you can't buy it as a done palette. But I love the color story in here, and I love the uniqueness of the shades. That's part of the reason why I chose this, and I just feel like they have an amazing formula that I can easily work with. And it has some really pretty neons that are good neons. This neon green and the neon purpley fuchsia kind of color. They are beautiful on the eyes. So it's like, yes, this would be the multi-chrome palette that I would keep if I could only keep 10. And as I said, I feel like the shades are very unique. They're nice and sparkly, and they just perform really well. Again, I like Notoriously Morbid as a whole. I like all of the eyeshadow palettes that I have from them so far. So I'm definitely gonna be purchasing more from them, but this would be the one I would keep if I could only keep 10. Next up, this is the Kaleidos times Angelica Nyquist palette. This is the Club Nebula palette. This is beautiful. And I chose this because I feel like this is a very complete palette on the things that I like in eyeshadows. Like there's beautiful dark grungy mattes in here, and the color story is very beautiful, very unique, but it has amazing mattes and amazing shimmers. Kaleidos has a beautiful shimmer formula that I just adore. And like you can see how easily those shadows swatch. They just go on beautifully. I think any of the Kaleidos palettes that I have could have filled this void. But again, I chose this one because of the dark, grungy mattes. Because I feel like that does kind of lack a lot in palettes. And I am so happy that this has it. This was a definite keeper. And now the 10 I have are in no particular order because it's hard to choose your favorites between your children. Unless it's my dog, because my dog is my favorite kid, and my kids know this. Next up, this is Mama Pat. This is so obscenely expensive. This is a $125 eyeshadow palette. This is the Mothership Volume 5, the Bronze Ambition. This is my go-to neutral palette. The shimmers in here are so phenomenal. I love Mama Pat's shimmer formula. Like, look at that. See how beautiful that sparkle is? But don't sleep on her mattes. Her mattes are amazing, amazing as well. So I would definitely recommend any of her Motherships. I own all of them and I love them. But I feel like this is my favorite because I can do so much with it. Like, this is the palette I go to for if I just need a good basic neutral look. I almost always reach for this one. Over any of my other neutrals, it's definitely this one. And I don't know, this one is definitely in my top 5. This is probably definitely in my top 3 as far as eyeshadow palettes go. And I just feel like it is a whole palette, but it is still unique because the shimmers in here, like you can see this shade, I don't even know what it's called. You can see the shift where it goes from like green to gold to pink. So this is definitely one that I would gladly repurchase again and again and have it over and over in my collection because I love it. Now, next up, which is kind of funny, this is number 1. This is my favorite palette of all time. This is the Melt Gemini palette. I love this color story. These grungy greens over here, grungy greens are neutral to me. The warm browns are great. So I do feel like you can get a complete look with this. So like this is the greens. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? You can see on my skin tone, the grungy greens are like the best on my skin tone. And I just feel like this was such a unique color story. And I have used it so many stinking times. I don't know. This is just like the greens on it alone make me love it. And it is still hands down my all-time favorite melt palette and eyeshadow palette in general. But yeah, this would be, like if I were going to recommend a melt palette to anybody, it would always be Gemini first. And then we would look at other things because those greens, mama, they're amazing. Next up, this is the Codain palette by Adept Cosmetics. There are 2 mattes in here, which the mattes are great, but I didn't choose to keep this palette because of the mattes. I chose it because of the shimmers. Because one, it has these 2 beautiful multi-chromes that are so stunning. But the rest of the shimmers, like look at that. Look at that shine. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. And I can use this in conjunction with any of the other palettes that I have on my list that have mattes in them. But look at that shift. Isn't that gorgeous? So stunning. So stinking stunning. But I can use this in conjunction with any of the other palettes that are in my top 10 to make beautiful looks. And again, I love their formula. I have all 3 of the eyeshadow palettes that they have done so far. Now they have them in all these colors as singles, but hands down, this is a definite love of mine. So next up, this is an all matte palette. This is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Blends palette. This is a rainbow palette, yes, but it is the best rainbow palette. If you need anything matte, this is a go-to. Now I wish the yellows were a little bit stronger in here, but I use this palette all the time. Like if I'm using special shimmers or if I'm using, you know, anything kind of like that, is great. But look, so red is notoriously, look how that is a bright true red. Purples are extremely difficult. And look at the black. The black is, I mean, I know they didn't swatch the best when I did it right there, but my hand is probably still wet from wiping it so many times. But the mattes in here are just phenomenal. They blend exactly, it's called Blend Bunny. You expect it to blend well, and it does. These colors all play well together. They do exactly what they're supposed to. And I mean, this is a staple rainbow palette in my collection. It's like if you have a rainbow palette that's this good, you don't need any other rainbow palettes. Now, will I buy other rainbow palettes? Oh yeah, I will. this is still hands down the best matte rainbow palette. Pure freaking perfection. Okay, next up, this is one of my favorites too. This is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. Look at this color story. And as you can see, I kind of tend to go for grungier tones. This definitely has them. This is one of those cream to powder. Oh, look at that color. I mean, come on now. How can you be like, that's not gorgeous? I mean, like, literally with what I just swatched, that is two gorgeous, gorgeous eye looks. You see what I'm saying? Look at those colors, how well they perform. Natasha has one of my favorite formulas out there. I love her mattes. Her shimmers, like the ones that were in the mini Zendo, were not my favorite, or in the midi Zendo, not the mini, were not my favorites. She has some really good shimmers, but her mattes are phenomenal. And I know when I buy one of her palettes that I'm going to get good quality. Metropolis is just my favorite because of the color story. I feel like I get the most variety. It was a toss up between this and gold. And don't get me wrong, I love gold. I love them both. But I think Metropolis definitely edged it out because the color story is quite a bit more complete. And I was thinking about it as far as that goes. It's like, okay, if I could only have 10, I'm trying to also choose things that are going to complete the collection together so I can have the most variety, if that makes sense. But yeah, she's another expensive one. She's $129. Next up, this is the Be Perfect times Stacey Marie. This is the Carnival 3. And I chose this because it's an amazing palette. Again, this is a palette that I go to grab if I need beautiful mattes. Now you can see like this in comparison with the Blend Bunny. The Blend Bunny has like the perfect gradient, but this has some unique brights. Like this coral shade is so stunning on the eyes. Yellow, again, is an amazing color on the eyes. But the shimmers in here, honey, aren't anything to like, look at that. They're not anything to like dismiss because the shimmers are beautiful as well. I mean, like, see? It all just performs beautifully, which is what I want from an eyeshadow palette. And I feel like this kind of helps add a little bit more depth in with using the Blend Bunny. And it kind of gives you a like extra gradient, if that makes sense. So these are great. Again, it just like the Carnival palettes are amazing. I have the Carnival 2, the XL Pro, but these are really good. And if you're looking for eyeshadow palettes, like Be Perfect does make really good eyeshadows. So that might be a choice for you. Next up, this is the Glam Shop Turbina palette. Now this is an all shimmer palette. You will notice that I am missing a shade, Chaos. It fell out. It was a beautiful silver. I want to order it, like the next time I order from Glam Shop, I'm gonna order this again because it is so beautiful because I want that shade. But like, this is Turbina, look at that. You see what I'm saying? These are their turbo shadows, and I chose this because I love their turbo shadows that I have. I was like, I need shadows that are going to perform. I mean, look at those. Look at that. Like, I mean, look how beautiful those are. And they're shifty and shiny and just amazingly beautiful goodness. Like, Glam Shop makes some, Glam Shop, if you're not familiar, they are a Polish indie brand. Look, I'm like all sparkly. I love when my skin looks like that. But Glam Shop makes some beautiful, beautiful shadows. And I love the colors that they have in them. Now I own like their marbles, their hollows. I own several singles from them. So this was a way to get in the kind, I mean, their mattes are great, but I'm going to choose their shimmers all day long because I feel like that is what stands out from them. And they're great. The problem with them is that their shipping can be kind of expensive. But other than that, I mean, again, if you're only keeping 10, this would be one of them. Now, last but certainly not least, this is a newer palette, kind of like the Notoriously Morbid, to my collection. And I chose it because I love Glam Light. I really do. Their formula is amazing. But I chose the Michaela palette because I felt like, see, we're getting more purples, more greens. It kind of fills in some gaps. But Glam Shop, their shimmers, look, look at the, I mean, come on, they feel wet. Look at that. I mean, isn't that beautiful? So even if I didn't love their mattes, their shimmers are freaking phenomenal. It's not super expensive. I could have like swapped this with like the Ice Cream palette or the Red Velvet. I mean, their formula is so good all around. I chose this one because I liked the variety in it without it being like a true rainbow. I chose the Stacey Marie because it had like some of the pink categories. So I got like lots of greens and blues with my others. And this one has more purples in it. So it's like, you know, that definitely fills it in. Plus it's got more neutral tones. So I feel like I ran the gambit of colors with the 10 palettes that I've chosen. And all of them I think would be great, either one to start your eyeshadow palette collection with, or those would be great as just your 10. I mean, that is literally my perfect 10 eyeshadow palettes. I love eyeshadow in general, but I think that those are the most phenomenal eyeshadows, and I'm so happy that I have them in my collection. They're my babies. But yeah, I'm happy. Anyways, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button right down below. And if you hit the notification bell icon next to it, that will notify you when I post new videos, which is typically a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with some bonus content thrown in a lot. But I guess that's it, so we shall see y'all later. Bye.